my PGN. Okay. We are back analyzing a viewer submitted game. It was submitted by Andrey and it was against Dreamer. Andrey was black, so we will analyze the game from black's perspective out of respect for the channel point redeemer or the reward redeemer. For those of you who don't know, there's a channel point reward on my channel. You submit a game, I analyze it, etc. So Andrey consistently submits really interesting, super like tactically insane games, and the ones that are against Andrey or that are against Dreamer rather are absolutely fantastic. You know, because they're like two of the best players in the scene, and so there's just always really deep, sort of like really interesting positions that come out of what are otherwise relatively tame openings. So let's just hop right into it. All right, Dreamer plays knight f3. No surprise here, right? F2 sacks, etc. I think at this stage I don't need to explain too much, but you know the point is that it prevents any early time travel shenanigans. Andrey plays e6, which is like the only move. Andrey has started every game with e3 or e6 in turn 0 for like months. This is just the Andrey, so nothing new here. Professor Blundermaster says 6:30 a.m. Really got to sleep with your channel. I'll take more interest in 5D. Ciao for now, everyone. Thanks for the stream, Samad. All right. Thanks for hanging around, Blundermaster. You can always check the VODs or the highlights on the YouTube. But thanks for sticking around. Hope we see more of you. All right. Okay. E6 is expected. In this position, you get the d4, knight f3, d4 prevents travels to f2 from the f file and from this diagonal, respectively, like the f2 to a7 diagonal. So we're just gonna, play d4. This is the most standard opening in the game. Okay, so knight f6 is most commonly played here in this position by Andrey. As white, Andrey opens e3, knight f3. This is to prevent, this sack onto f7. e6 prevents the sack along this diagonal. Knight f6 doesn't prevent the sack along this file, but it means that there's like a very small one-turn window in which the white player can like maneuver some pieces in a sort of outlandish, uncomfortable way to actually manage to get a turn 1 f7 sack, and it's usually not good, if at all possible. So let's just follow along. Okay, so if you've opened the diagonal to the king, we don't want, as the white player, to succumb to fool's mate, which would be to leave this triagonal open to enable queen a5 mate. So you got to close the triagonal. If you open this square, then the next turn you have to close this square. Solid stuff so far. Now, for me at least, the question is always, what do you do? Actually, not yet. That's unfair. I know what's going to happen next. Like, this is how I envision the platonic, like, Classico Dreamer Andrey game in my head. It's knight f3, e6 or reversed, and then you get this structure, and then the Andrey player in this position, who opens either e3 or e6, always wants to frappuccino the bishop on the queen side, because e3 and e6, there are a lot of like really interesting tactical like aggressive ideas that you can materialize, and they all benefit really intensely from this bishop here threatening the knight that is covering the crucial f square. If you get like a knight here or something, if you like open up knight here, then the idea after a bishop fianchetto is you sack the knight, king takes, bishop captures the knight, which checks the king and also opens up h4 for the queen, and then queen h4 is mate, or it enables a travel. That's sort of like the bread and butter, like the ideas that you're trying to sort of get toward at like a minimal level. Of course, the white player knows you're doing that, so they try to, counteract that positionally, and then you try to force yourself onto the weaknesses that are generated by the counteracting of those strategies. And so that's sort of how the really interesting positions develop out of these types of games. So next thing that you do here as black or as white in this position is fianchetto the queenside bishop. So b6 is what I expect. And I see here in the document that b6 is what we get. Fantastic idea of this fianchetto here on b7. Okay, here, most normal move is bishop f4. By the way, it's not like, I mean, it doesn't take a genius to point this out, by the way. I'm kind of spelling it out, but after you've played e6, obviously, you're going to have a hell of a time developing this light square bishop in any way other than fianchettoing it. So, you know, not saying it's like something crazy and profound, just pointing out, you know, the sort of themes that you can see in games that come out of these positions. Okay, bishop f4. Bishop f4 is the most common opening. This is all textbook here from Dreamer, like the most common, the Lopez of this game, which I've referred to a bunch in the past, is the sort of knight f3, d4, c3, and then bishop f4. And then you usually see e3 after this. That's the most common sort of opening. The idea is that you're going to want to push e3 at some point to enable your queen to see into the king side of the board. You know, and also to maybe get like the queen's eyes onto f2, something along those lines, just to defend it from like, you know, really aggressive sacks. And if you're going to push this pawn, if you do it before you liberate the bishop from this side of the board, like if we had immediate e3, then this is obviously, it becomes like impossible to develop this bishop without weakening your position substantially. So this is like the Frenchest bishop of all time, but on the white side. You know what I mean. Dreamer just lost a lot of elo to Sirtis again. How does he do it, man? I want to get my hands on some of those games. That's fantastic. Okay, like just now after he beat Sirtis, because that's really great. Okay. Let's keep our eyes on the prize here. All right, so bishop f4, super regular. You know, in this case, it develops the bishop, and it's really nice because if the black player sort of does something aggressive and like moves this knight out or whatever, then in a few turns, the bishop here will be able to sacrifice onto f7, and that's sad times bears for the black player, as everyone knows. So, bishop f4 is played. In response, all right, well, I did just mention how you don't want to move this knight. If there is any time to move this knight as black, it's right now. The reason being, even if you get a sack onto f7, like on this board, the fact that e3 hasn't yet been played it basically takes it from like an immediate game-winning sacrifice to basically something that is fendable off. So because the enabling, you know, normally what happens is this pawn is pushed already. Then if you get a bishop here, then king has to capture, and then there's a check, and then you move away, and then this queen delivers mate on h5. But that is impossible starting from this position. So what Andrey is that this is a novelty. This is really interesting. Turn 4, knight d5 to kick the bishop, which is really super interesting. That's really super interesting. The hell are we looking at here? This is spooky. The fact that the eyes of the black queen are already open to the king side makes it a little bit spooky. Obviously, there isn't like any immediate... There aren't any like immediate problems. Because the knight is holding down the fort on h4. However, imagine... this does force the bishop off of the f-file. Why is that? g3, you might think, to recapture. It's promising on the surface, but in 5D, weakening the f3 square is really detrimental. Because now, you know, let's say trade takes, then you fianchetto the bishop. And you pressure this knight. And obviously you can't recapture with the e-pawn, which is the reason that g3 is necessary here rather than e3. Because then you have problems like this pawn on e3 doesn't actually defend this bishop, because if you take here with the knight, then after recaptures with the pawn, you're opening the file up, which leads to some really nasty like 5D tactics. The diagonal from this king propagates in time. You can get a queen on this file, push this pawn, and then it's mate in a few turns. So that's no good. Defending with the g-pawn here isn't good because it weakens the f3 square. Like, yeah, potentially you can take and then takes, and then fianchetto here, and then the response is a fianchetto here, but then you just move your queen up to f6, and you're threatening the pawn here. There's like a hole in white structure. Like, yes, he gets an open file, but I think ultimately it's probably not worthwhile. Also, if you take here with the queen, then what's going to happen? If you got a bishop here, then probably something like e3 will have to be played. But that's kind of a bluff because again, the e3 pawn isn't about to take the queen on f4. So anyway, you got to move the bishop here. That is to say, you got to move the bishop here. So probably that's a little bit more obvious than the length of this description warrants. So we're just gonna go ahead and we're gonna conclude safely that the bishop has to move. So where's the bishop going to move? Back this way isn't a good idea because, well, here, you lose the bishop anyway. And also, if here's obviously lost because here if takes, then pawn takes. Okay, it's not obviously lost because there isn't a bishop here that can capture this knight yet, but it's bad news bears. It's really bad. It wastes the tempo for this bishop. It's moved like 2 times, and then you get the trade for it, and then you open up your structure. It's really bad. Here it gets blocked, obviously bad. Here, obviously bad. It hangs the bishop. So it goes here, which actually white is quite happy about anyway, because the bishop on g3 defends the f2 square, and you really don't mind so much that you've moved the bishop twice in a row. And in the game, that is what we see. We see bishop g3, which makes perfect sense. Queen f6 is the next move, and I think very logical in a position like this. You want to recover the the f file because you don't want to get got by like a sack on f7 after this pawn has been pushed. And you're just placing extra pressure on the knight here. You're gonna fianchetto your bishop in a second, so solid move. Holds down diagonal, activates the bishop, prevents a wacky like knight move from, well, I mean that would have been possible anyway, but it prevents a lot of shenanigans. I think it's a really good move. Though can I respond with bishop h4 to open up the diagonal again? I guess there isn't a whole lot of point. Maybe it's annoying to kick the queen. I don't know. Seems somewhat inconsequential, but it's actually maybe annoying. I mean, you've moved your bishop for like the 4th turn in a row, so that's not very good, but there's a world in which that's actually a good move. Maybe that is a good move. Because after... okay, so queen f6 is played, and I think it makes sense. If you play bishop here... I mean, it's not like you can push the pawn, because then you just capture. If you move the queen, like, anywhere, unless it's, like, fatal, the white player can actually get away with an... Oh, there's no Tchaikovsky, because there's a knight on d5. Okay, so I was thinking of this this interesting line where like you kick the queen here and so it moves out of the way. I don't know where, who cares? And then you play bishop d8, checking the king one turn in the past, so only legal move is king recaptures. Then you push your queen over to the c file, push this pawn up, and then travel this queen onto d7 the turn before you provide this check that forces the king to move to d8. Sorry, I said d7, I meant c7. And that, that's like that's a common sort of Tchaikovsky setup. The only problem is that because the knight is on d5, which it like never is in this position, so it threw me off. c7 is defended, but ordinarily, if you could force the king to d8 and then get this queen to the undefended c7 square the turn before it moves, then it checks the king on the main timeline one turn in the future, which is a really cool 5D tactic that, and that's what we call a Tchaikovsky. A lot of people have asked me what a Tchaikovsky is recently. And I'll make a video about it soon, just dedicated to explaining that. But long story short, well, that tactic doesn't work because there's a knight on d5. It still seems annoying. Kick the queen there. But it probably loses tempo. I think you probably want to develop whenever you probably want to play e3 or like get your queen out or something. More than you want to do that. A really common move that I see Dreamer play all the time in this position is queen c2. I'm never 100% sure. Bro, it's classic. How can they not know? It's classic for us. Not classic for everyone. But the Tchaikovsky is a classic. I'll educate the masses. I'll do some content on it soon. Queen c2 here on Dreamer loves to do this. And actually, if Dreamer's still here, I would love if Dreamer could maybe provide a little bit of, I mean, if he just says something like it's an obvious move, what else would you do? Then it won't be very helpful. I mean, queen c2 here is nice because it keeps you on a light square, which is like useful for shenanigans on this side of the board. It also defends both b2 and f2. I mean, b2 is obviously, the queen's already on this side of the board, so that's not like the biggest weakness in the world. But after you push e3, which you want to do all the time anyway, it enables the queen to like hop into the king side and also enables the queen to defend f2. You already have a defender on f2 in terms of the pawn on g3. So I don't know, like e3 here seems better for me, but I'm not positive. I see Dreamer make this move all the time, and that is the move that's played here in this game as a response to queen f6. Andrey says this move is left as an exercise to the reader. No, I want to elucidate. I mean, I think I give my reasoning. Like as white in this position, you really don't want to mince moves, right? And it is solid. But like, what's wrong with e3, I guess, is my question. Prepares long castles. Okay, I keep forgetting that Dreamer actually enjoys long castling. In positions like this, where there's like a queen on the king side. I forgot about that. Yeah, and there's no anti-castle travel because the queen defends b2. Okay. Yeah, that is the explanation that was afforded to me before. I wish I could have played because I haven't played many games against Dreamer where he long castles because Dreamer just doesn't like playing me on stream, or our schedules don't match up or something. Okay, let's keep moving. See, queen c2 in this position, quite instructive. I think every day of the week I play something like e3, maybe even probably not knight bd2 before I've played e3, but interesting, very interesting. We'll see if not playing e3 here at this point actually matters. Not playing e3 here does enable. What does it signal? Okay, so if you have an aversion to playing e2 here, or e3 here, I guess it shows, like, why would you not want to play e3 here? I guess if you wanted to play e4 later and didn't want to lose a tempo, Like if you want to play knight bd2 castles and then e4 to grab space in the middle. Yeah, you need to perform some tax fraud. Yeah, something like that. Actually, that makes some sense, right? Because if you're planning on playing e4 anyway, maybe that's the reason that you wouldn't bother playing e3 here. Knight here and then the queen here and then e4 actually becomes like a really nice space grabbing move. I mean, e4 is fantastic in classical. The only reason it played in 5D is that it, you know, there's obvious vulnerabilities that it introduces for the king. But if the king's already safely tucked away into this corner, is Semet reading Dreamer? I'm trying, man. That's what we're here to do. We're here to analyze. And I really just don't super understand. Like, to me, it seems obvious, and he's played it a lot against, you know, me. Like the few games I have against Dreamer. So I think that's what I think about this move. Prepares the long castle, which I guess Dreamer likes because, you know, there's sort of like a paradigm shift that it introduces. Like you know, normally all of the action, when the queen is here, like all the action is on the king side. So you sort of pull a switcheroo and then you can push your pawns out here, including the center grabbing e4. And the only way that you can play a center grabbing e4 with your king tucked away is when you have knight bd2 and then the queen on c2 and the knight on d2 both contribute to the e4. That's my deep read on the situation. That's why I think Dreamer sort of plays, you know, those are the themes I think to queen c2. Okay, let's not spend forever on queen c2. What do you do here as black? What do you do here as black? Probably Frappuccino, because that's what you were going to do anyway, right? Queen c2. Yeah. Knight b7. Obvious move is obvious. You know, that's why I pushed the pawn earlier. This is the shape of the attack here. This is how you do it. So this is clear. What do you do as Dreamer? Maybe now knight bd2. Yes, knight bd2 for aforementioned reasons. You're setting up the castle, the long castle. You're setting up e4. All very thematic. Okay. Fantastic. Knight bd2. Now, if you see as Andrey that Dreamer is trying to run his king to c1, how do you take advantage of that? Let's see. You have a bishop left to activate. Maybe it's a bit difficult to crack open the position. I like maybe knight d6 here, kicking this bishop. It seems a bit crazy, but hear me out. Yeah, like knight d6, you kick it here. If it moves... All right, I don't know the follow-up, but let's say that it doesn't move, right? Let's say that it doesn't move. So your bishop takes here, and then takes with the h-pawn is probably necessary, because takes with the f-pawn wins the game, right? Here you're taking advantage of the fact that you've got a knight on d5. Okay, so whenever you have like a positional novelty like you have in this game, where Andrey played the very early knight from f6 to d5, you know, you have to like think, okay, like what ideas has this activated for me? The e3/e6 square is always a big liability for the you know, in this case the white player, because the only thing preventing this from being immediate mate is this pawn, right? So you want to sort of abuse the fact that this pawn is that this pawn is undefended. So how do you do that? Well, I don't know. That's what got me thinking. Okay, well, if this pawn is sort of overburdened by defending both e3 and g3, then you play bishop d3, and then if you can takes, then this doesn't quite force open the, you know, then pawn takes here, and then queen here is mate, but obviously that's not a move that's playable on the board. But maybe then you play here, only move is takes, and then You take here with the Fianchettoed bishop. Then the bishop, then this pawn recaptures because otherwise he opens up the diagonal. So now there's pawn, pawn, pawn. No, there's pawn, 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 because you haven't actually taken any of his pawns. Yeah, it's pawn, pawn, pawn. But you've sacked like 3 pieces. Well, no, you've traded 2 pieces, sacked 1 piece. And if you could get your queen here, you'd win the game, but you can't. So, okay, we're going too deep. We're going too deep into the rabbit hole. We're going too deep. If bishop d6, just knight e4 seems strong. Fair point. Fair point, Andrey. If bishop d6, knight e4, and then trades captures, seems solid. Then you've spent like 2 moves. Well, I mean, actually, you're sort of even in tempo, so. But trading the bishop for the... Trading the bishops off here, I don't know if it's that great. You have like an undeveloped knight anyway, and it's unclear how we're going to develop the knight. All right. I take that back. Let's just see what he actually does in this position. Knight bd2. Oh, bishop d6 is played. Okay. And then knight e4 is played. Yeah, it attacks the queen. Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. I did all that analysis, and Andrey was like, no, I don't think so. But Andrey actually played bishop d6. And then knight e4 was played. Okay, it was so long ago. All right. So this is a bit tricky. This actually is super annoying. What do you do here? Okay, obvious. Wow. I was about to suggest... queen g6. But knight takes with check, so then the queen, you don't get like the discovered onto the queen. It's like the queen takes here. I mean, if you take with the h pawn, it's not the end of the world, but it's looking kind of spicy. Looking kind of spicy, because then if you get like a bishop travel to this board as white, then you have king takes here, check, and then queen takes, and then this becomes mate. So maybe queen d6 seems bad. Queen f5 is weird. You maintain control of the f file. You still defend f7. Same issue. Oh, that's obviously terrible, because after like takes, check here, and then takes, then queen takes here opens up the file. So that's very bad. So only other move that doesn't like drop the piece or do something wacky is probably e7, which is sad, but a great counter argument to bishop d6, which is fair. Okay. Queen e7 is actually the game. That's why you shelve games if Civet takes too long to review and send him newer games instead. You have the option, that's for sure. But it's also good to revisit your own games with a fresh lens, right? Okay. Queen e7, and suddenly, perhaps black is kind of on the back foot. Right, because it's difficult to develop this knight. These pieces, it's kind of a clusterfuck. You suddenly have the initiative here on this side of the board. I mean, it's not like decisive by any means, but now it looks like, okay, actually, if this king castles and he pushes some pawns, suddenly the task of reaching that king ever just becomes super daunting. So I don't know. I don't know about that. But this is what's played. Okay. As Dreamer, what do? You're kind of You're sitting pretty as Dreamer. What do you do here? Trading the knight for the bishop is probably good because you mess up the pawn structure. I like e3 here. Open the eyes of this bishop, which is particularly good in these positions where, you know, like the e pawn was played, so the d pawn is has stayed put. So, you know, you can come in and like harass the knight here. I guess there's the Frappuccino bishop that can recapture, but yeah, probably I'm looking at like e3. Just sort of tightens the position. Probably even castle in this position. You could trade here. I think you have a lot of options. Trade here. Which do you prefer? Takes the... Well, okay. Knights for bishops are good in situations where you expect the game to go long, which if Dreamer's setting up for like a long castle pawn push, then he probably wants an endgame. So probably the knight's good. Knight also forces recapture because it happens with the check. Here, you're kicking the queen around, but you remove a defender from f2. I don't know. Let's just see what he does. After queen e7, we get knight d6. Okay, okay. Knight takes d6. Makes sense. It's a check. Super annoying. I mean, obvious play because it's defended by the bishop here is to recapture with this pawn, which is exactly what happens. Yeah, this kind of sucks. You really mess up. You mess up Black's pawn structure. And in a game where you're like expected to go into an endgame, it's kind of spooky. I mean, this pawn is defended twice right now, but not having a c pawn to like cover this diagonal is actually really annoying. It means that you can't stray too far with any of these pieces, because otherwise maybe there are like some sketchy travels or Tchaikovskys that can be set up. I mean, it is what it is. This bishop on this knight on d5 is actually really nice, like defensively for Black. Don't bring up endgames. It reminds me of the 50-turn, 3-turn team match earlier. I mean, that sounds mad. But endgames are fantastic. We love our endgames. All right, Lawnmower just redeemed. Submit a game for review. The queue is now 5 reviews long. Let me put it into the, before I forget, let me, oh my god, okay. Lawnmower, you're gonna have to wait a few streams. Hope that's okay. If you could DM me the game on Discord, so that I don't have to like go back into this VOD, then that would be fantastic. Then I won't have to find you and ask you to dig it up for me again later. I regret nothing. All right. The queue grows. Okay. Back to the game. All right. Okay, so pawn takes here, and then we see e4. Okay, it's all coming together. I'm starting to understand the Dreamer. I did say that this was all in preparation for e4. He did it before the castle, which is surprising. I didn't expect that, but it's really difficult for Black to mobilize his pieces. You're kicking this knight, and this knight is super annoying. It just is. That's just the truth of the matter. There's actually a world in which, I mean, obviously kicks the knight. Where can the knight go? I mean, can go to f6. It can go back to c7. If it goes to c7, then this bishop play, threatening the Tchaikovsky onto this knight, is actually a really good play. And the fact that the queen is already on c2 and, you know, makes it like particularly potent. But e4 comes out. E4 is a Chad move. Question is where this knight goes. c7 is pretty feels bad, man. Probably just f6, right? Takes here doesn't seem real. It's just, I mean, the queen on c2, well, it does maybe make castling more difficult. But that's like your most active piece. I don't know if you want to sack it for a pawn. Hard to say. What happens in the game? Knight b4. What? I am reading this correctly, because the next move is c takes b4. Sir? Well, it threatens the queen and a king rook fork. Okay, you don't play this move if you don't expect this, so why is this okay? Well, I mean, you can push this pawn. Maybe this is Andrey's idea. Here, if takes, you push this pawn, you put pressure on this pawn here, and you threaten mate here. With the queen, right? Because the open triagonal. So, Andrey, maybe you can enlighten us, but okay, this is the only explanation, right? The only explanation is, okay, you've seen e4 played. This is really interesting. This is a very Andrey move. This is really interesting, like offensive counterplay. Okay, so there is now a weakness on e4. E4 is covered by this bishop, which is the only reason that bishop takes e4 isn't made on the spot. If you take with the pawn, then you can play d5, I guess. Okay, if c takes b3 happens, then you can play bishop takes e4, which forces queen takes e4, but after d5, he can just play rook c1. Oh, sorry, the mate happens on d4, so... So wait, what do you do actually? Does this work? C takes b4, bishop takes e4, queen takes e4, d5. And how does white cover b4? The rook can't get there because there's a pawn on b2. The knight can't get there. The bishop can't get there. Bishop takes e4 first seems strong. That's what I'm saying. Is that what was played in the game? But the game isn't over, so there must be a way to defend it. No, d5. Oh, Andrey played d5 first instead of bishop e4. Ah, no, it wasn't the plan. Okay, Andrey played d5 first, threatening the mate instead of immediate bishop. Ah, I think you had mate there, right, Andrey? Am I wrong? I mean, I don't want to, it's not, listen, I don't want to draw any hasty conclusions, but okay, so this happened. This is obvious. Well, okay, not if the rest of, you don't want to lose your queen, right? But if there's like a forced mating sequence, the thing is here, you either cover e4, well, you either cover e4 again, or you lose your queen. Well, yeah, it wins a queen. It wins a queen. So like if you cover, yeah, you can cover e4 again to not lose, which is maybe necessary. You could even do it with the knight. Okay, the knight is maybe the cleaner way, but no, you need to do this so that you can recapture after you lose the queen. So, wow, this might force a queen win. That's, wow, it just goes to show how vulnerable e4 makes you, especially when there's a frappuccino queenside bishop. Holy butts. Wow. There's always these super sharp tactical ideas in these games with Andrey versus Dreamer. I can't believe that Andrey didn't take with the bishop first. It's just such an Andrey play. I mean, time pressure, I probably wouldn't have seen it either. You know, maybe it doesn't even work. Let's just see. Let's just see. Let's not freak out. Okay, c takes b4 happens now. This checks the king in the past. Let's confirm. Oh, it might be one turn off. No. It checks the king 3 turns in the past on the board. So literal only legal move is here. Then you play d5 after queen recaptures. How do you prevent? Oh, a3. a3, a3, a3. A3 is sufficient, right? I was freaking out, but a3 I think defends. Now that I see it on the board, so maybe not. Is there anything? Can you do like a travel? No, because then you're checking with king too many turns in the past. And on the new timeline, he can just play knight f d2 or knight d2. I guess there isn't a b knight. So maybe it's not so good. Right, Andrey? What do you think? Yeah, queen takes, d5, a3. But I mean... Oh, then you win his queen. Okay. Yeah, you still win his queen. You still win his queen with the d5 pawn, and then you threaten the diagonal, because then it kicks the knight. Okay, that's still amazing. It's not one, but you're more than compensated for your 2 pieces for the queen and the diagonal. Yeah. But I just had the biggest brain fart. Yeah, you can't defend with the queen, so you win the queen. Yeah. Okay, it looks like you definitely win the queen, as far as I can tell. Maybe someone in the YouTube comments can point out some other line, but this isn't what happens. It's a transposition. What actually happens is immediate d5, which is trouble. It's trouble. It's just trouble. Maybe have a look at Lawnmower 24, a submitted game after this. There's a queue, bro. People gotta wait their turn. Come on, Sonoy. Okay. So, let's keep going. So after, let's see. Knight b4, c takes b4, d5. We get, okay, you have to defend this pawn somehow. How do you do it? You probably want to keep the queen defending a3, or maybe not. Maybe it's not even necessary. Knight here. Oh, it doesn't defend in time. So a3. Probably a3, right? Really interesting. A3 here. This is really interesting. I think a3 here is probably... What other option do you have? Like queen here, and then you take, and then you don't... I mean, not that you're going to recapture with the queen because there's the bishop. But I'm slightly less... Before I was super convinced that black really didn't have compensation. Now it's like, okay, well, suddenly the position looks really interesting for black. Look at how open the king is here. I would say that not a single move of the game is not a positional play. Oh, for Lawnmower's game? Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. One game at a time. All right, let's keep going. We want to get to the we want to get to the end of this game before midnight. We're only about halfway through. A3, and then you take on e4, obviously. White can't recapture. You threaten the knight. Super annoying. And suddenly you're about to open the diagonal. You know, if you push this pawn, then there's some wacky stuff going on. So, okay. E4. You kick the knight. Where does the knight go? Knight's got to go somewhere. Only obvious play, you know, knight's on the rim. Shit's looking grim. I think that knight e5 is obvious. Threatens f7. You know, there's a world in which you get a sack. I'm sure this is what's played in the game. Arguably, you could actually push the knight back here. I mean, you want your knight to be probably like forward in this position. Knight here, I mean, it prevents me. Realistically, there's not like too much that's going to go down on the b4 pawn. So let's just see. Okay, knight e5 is the game that's played on board. What do you do here? Well, you can kick the knight. You probably don't want to open up the diagonal. Pushing the pawn doesn't seem great because there's no way to capitalize. And now you sort of fix his pawn structure, right? And it's not like this bishop is moved, so you're not like threatening d2 with your Frappuccino queen, or with your Frappuccino bishop rather. All right, so candidate move, knight c6. Yeah, d6 seems bad. Is there a good queen move here? Yeah, pawn up doesn't seem good. There's no follow-up. You want to keep defending f7, I think, probably. Maybe queen here to... I mean, this does open up... Well, no, there's no sack because the bishop's always on g3 defending f2. So that's no... I mean, okay, the sack is terrible. The knight sack here is no bueno, right? So probably... Because if you take with the king, then, you know, there's probably some forced mate sequence. If you don't, then you allow the knight to take the rook here, and from h8, then 2 turns in the future, there's a knight g8 mate travel. So probably you want to keep this queen here, which means probably knight c6 is the only move. And knight c6 is what's played. Okay, so knight e5, knight c6. And so then we get recaptures, or captures here. What else do you do with this knight? You can't sack it. Moving it back seems bad. And, you know, you want to stymie the development of... This knight is actually a royal pain in your ass because it's the... You know, there's no good way to defend this pawn. It kicks the queen. Okay. So recapturing here, I think, is a no-brainer. Or capturing here. I keep saying recapturing when it's the first time that it's happened. And then I assume that bishop takes because why would it not? Yes. Bishop c6. Okay. Now what do you do? I don't think you can castle super safely. I don't see how you knock this. You don't want to give this pawn like something to capture here. This knight here is like forever going to defend this pawn, so that's actually pretty annoying. What does Dreamer do here? Dreamer, okay, he develops his undeveloped bishop, which makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. Difficult to argue with that. Could go for a kingside castle. The fact that the bishop is on g3 means that there isn't like a Tchaikovsky, there isn't like an anti-castle travel that's like easy to access. Actually, there is an anti-castle travel. You would just have to like push this pawn up, sack the bishop, move this pawn up, and then get the queen to b7 or something like that. So I don't know the plan. I think probably you want to castle here as Dreamer because your king is obviously not safe on this side of the board, and you probably want to get it away. Yeah, probably you prep a castle. All right, so how do you attack that as black? Let's see what black does here. I'm not going to speculate too much. After bishop e2, we get... e3. After bishop e2, we get e3. I didn't like e3 earlier because it felt like... Okay. E3 is good because the bishop is moved. Earlier, we talked about how e3 wasn't good because you weren't threatening g2. In this situation, e3 is good because you are threatening g2 because this bishop just moved. So in response to this bishop move, e3 is e3 makes a lot of sense. Keep track of checking squares or diagonals. Don't know what you mean. This diagonal we're keeping track of, but there aren't any propagating diagonals here, like in time. So I don't know what you mean there. If I'm missing something, I think it's best if you're explicit about it, Andrey. The E diagonal. Yeah. Oh, of course. Oh my god, I'm so blind. Look at me analyzing this game here, not realizing that. Oh my god. Okay, that's embarrassing. That's embarrassing. Uh, okay, so this is actually okay. We're we're almost at hour 8 of the stream. I apologize. I got to do these analyses earlier on when I'm more spry. Okay. Bishop e2 isn't just to enable a castle, develop an undeveloped piece. Bishop e2 is also to close the diagonal, which was difficult for me to see because there are 2 pawns in front of this queen that are, blocking the way. But they're still being played for here. This diagonal to this king in time, which certainly exists. Because, okay, so where does the king open up, right? This pawn is here, and there's a diagonal from this king to this pawn, right? So when you push this pawn, so there's a king, there's a king on e1 here. The diagonal propagates from this king on e1 to e2 here, to e3 here. After you push this pawn to e4 here, so this threatens bishop takes g2, but also like in a turn, you're going to be playing e5 and allow the diagonal to come to e6, and then the queen on e7 will mate the king on e1 back here. So Dreamer is very concerned. He should be, at least. He's got to prevent, like taking here is, it enables bishop g2. Not taking here enables this pawn takes check, and also bishop g2. So this is actually super scary. Wow. Okay. Suddenly, it looks like black is cooking with gas in a way that that wasn't obvious to me, and I thank Andrey for pointing that out, because there's this beautiful. You rarely see like the double pawn threading the needle phasing to the king. That's really fantastic. Okay. Very good. So this is a real power play. Like takes is annoying. There's this discovered threat, and there's this diagonal. So this is actually really scary. How does white deal with this? How does white deal with e3? Simple. With f2, what does f2 do? It blocks the bishop from taking on g2, and it prevents the pawn here from checking. But white's not out of the woods yet. Next turn, I think white has to go. Bishop e2, e3, f3. Next turn, I think white has to go like bishop here to prevent this from propagating the diagonal. So you can take advantage of the forced move here. How do you actually do that in practice? I'm just going to check. Rook d8. Rook d8. Rook d8. White can't bishop d5. White can't bishop d5 because that blunders mate in 1. Thank you, Andrey. Queen h4 mate in 1. I'm glad Andrey's here. I'm missing quite obvious lines, including giving up mate in 1. So the plan must be bishop c4, right? To get at this e6 square, to occupy it on the proper turn. Wait, no, but then the queen takes. Okay, hold on. Suddenly, I'm not positive how white doesn't lose. Let me see. Rook d8, I think I played because I didn't want him to yeet his bishop. Yeet his bishop where? Here? No, that loses. Which bishop is being yoked? Maybe the c4 bishop. Okay, let's keep track of the diagonals here. So it's on e4 here because it's the turn that this was pushed. So it's on e4 here. Next turn is e5. So next turn we have to play e6. On b8, just to prevent phase. Okay, yes. Because bishop b8 is a checking square here, and since this provides check, it doesn't actually open him up to mate in 1 because you can just push h4 after a forced rook recapture, and then the diagonal has been covered by the bishop that is on e2. So, very good. However, it still works, right? He can still go bishop b8. Because it will... So he can go bishop b8. Okay, so rook 88 was played. Here on this turn, checks him in the past, and now he can't push this pawn, so it's dead. Right now it's not the time. Why? You have to push this next turn no matter what. Right? Because you push this, so it's here now, this turn. And so on your next turn, you have to push e6. So he can just check here. It's in time. Yeah, it's in time, Andrey. It wouldn't have been in time if you had played rook c8. Rook c8 would have blocked. Rook d8 doesn't block. And you did play rook d8. Maybe you didn't notice? Maybe? Well, okay. It looks like Dreamer didn't notice either. Or maybe he didn't want to sack here. I don't know. Because my idea was bishop c4. Because if you move, then he's got to check here. Which maybe is annoying. But if bishop c4, suddenly you've got another diagonal that propagates. So actually, that seems pretty bad for him. Maybe it was time? Yeah. It was definitely... I think Dreamer could have played bishop b8 here and checked. But that doesn't matter. Phase is 2 after push. No, it matters. It matters because the phase stops here on this turn. Because if this check happens, he can't... then the diagonal propagating from the king ends at this pawn. Because this turn, e5 has to be pushed. No, bishop check after push. What's your point? No. If it's after the push, well, after the push, then this bishop can't take. It can't check. Because it blocks. You said your idea was bishop c4 so you can check? Yeah. Bishop c4 check, and then here, and then check here. Oh, you're saying like takes with king happens, so it's not a big deal. Yeah, it doesn't actually have to be... Sorry. Bishop takes f7 isn't what you would do. It would be bishop e6. Bishop e6 would prevent the diagonal from propagating. So yeah. Bishop c4 not to check. Yeah. To flex tape. Yeah, to flex tape. Yeah. Yeah, bishop c4 isn't to check on f7. It's actually to cover e6. But, I mean, the problem is that you're opening another diagonal. But, yeah, I said it was to check. I was incorrect. I was incorrect. Yeah, I got my streams crossed. No, but I think probably if Dreamer had seen this, then he would have just done it, I'm guessing. But I don't know. I don't want to speak for Dreamer, but... is bishop c4 even what we see? Because it's not necessarily true, right? That was my speculation. Okay, let me... rook a d8. Bishop c4 happens. Okay. And then e5 happens to continue the diagonal. And then bishop e6 is necessary here. as we spoke. Otherwise, you lose. And so this is what he played. Okay, okay. Now, the queen takes is obvious. You keep the queen on this diagonal. I don't know what else you'd do. Like, why would you take? Okay, maybe actually there's an argument that you take with the pawn here, but you probably want to go for this mate, right? Like, you could take with the pawn here to, you know, like maybe try and make some plays happen with the rook. It's possible. It's possible that you take with the pawn here. But, I mean, the queen here is just really nice because then you have another pawn push mate. But take with the pawn here maybe looks tricky. I don't know. After rook d1, is it that scary? Probably not. If pawn takes here in response, then it's difficult to threaten anything serious. Well, okay, if pawn takes here, then you have knight, or then you have rook d2. And then this diagonal is open. It looks kind of gnarly. So taking with pawn doesn't look good here. I don't know. Sorry, bruh. D takes e6, queen takes c6. Thank you, Andrey. This is what I'm saying. I'm glad that you're here to point out my obvious. Okay. You know, he didn't see that bishop d8 was there in time. I didn't see that this hangs mate in 1. You know, it's a trade-off. Okay, let's just take with the queen. Let's not get too fancy. Thanks. Thanks, Andrey. Thanks, Lawnmower. Okay. Sorry, back down to earth. Okay. Queen takes e6. What do we get here? Castles. Do I agree with castles? Castle still propagates the diagonal, right? Trade-off for I get bishop, you get mate in 1. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's good. Castles is what happens in the game. Then you propagate this diagonal, yeah. Then queen here is bad. Maybe you get pawn takes here. But no, but yeah, then this takes, then take. Oh, okay. This is actually tricky. Hold on. What's the alternative? I was just thinking queen here prevents any shenanigans. Then you can castle because you can't push the pawn here to propagate the diagonal. Right? Is there an obvious detriment to this play? Well, letting the queen in, letting the queen into b3 seems like a terrible idea. But is it that bad? Because you're going to castle next turn, connecting the rooks. Like, okay, yeah, you give up b2, but you're safe, right? You're totally safe. It also repositions in a way that allows, like, queen a6. Okay, so if castle's here, which is what happens, if you push here, obviously, like, it threatens the rook. That's bad news bears. Trade off for rook for pawn. Feels pretty bad. So what? You move the rook maybe. And then the next turn it's here. Okay, so let's get this on the board. I'm just going to do this. Rook here. So on this board, it's here. It's 4 a.m. soon. Probably have to go after this. 5 a.m. for me. All right, we're winding down. We're in the last 10 moves of the game. So we're in the home stretch. Why is this not bad? Wait, is this what actually happens in the game? Because if I'm just analyzing this, okay, here and then queen takes, and then pawn up doesn't happen next turn. Pawn up doesn't have, okay. Now there's a diagonal threat here where the queen can capture. This seems kind of tricky, does it not? You still have the diagonal propagating? Wait, are we in the last 10 moves? We're in the last 10 moves, but this isn't what you do. Andrey, you actually play e takes d4, defending this pawn. Oh, you're still in time to propagate the diagonal. You're still in time. You're still in time. Okay, okay, okay. I didn't realize you were still in time. Bruh. I want to buy 5D chess lessons. Someone, please. From what? Defend from what? Defend what from what? I was saying here takes, and then you've propagated the diagonal, but like here you can also propagate the diagonal. Wait, I am in time though? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You're in time. You're in time here. You could just block with the queen. And then you're not in time. But then you push with the pawn. And then you're probably in time. So here you probably go rook e1, right? As Dreamer. I guess you're still in time. You're still in time. I don't think I am. d4 defends the pawn. But from what? Well, it's not about... Okay, d4 isn't about defending this pawn. Like, it defends the pawn. It's not being threatened now. But it opens up... You don't have to push this pawn later if you've already played d4. It doesn't look like it works. No, so the king is here on this turn, right? Oh, wait, you're right. You're right. You're right. It doesn't work. I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. Because it's here on this board, here on this board, and then you have to push on this turn. Okay, I was second guessing myself because it's so late. We're at hour 8 of the stream. Okay. Okay. Am I in time though? I don't think I am. Yeah, you said that you were in time. Actually, you're not in time. Right, okay. Thanks for saving me from my own doubt that you've sown yourselves, chat. This pawn needs to be pushed this turn, but it's not, which begs the question, why the fuck not? Is there a defense? Queen takes here. Then you do something. I don't know what. Like if queen takes here, there's also like, I don't know, you have to worry about like this pawn here as well. I don't remember why the fuck not. Okay. What a shit show. Because you're attacking that rook. That's really annoying for him. If he ignores, you get a free check. And then you push the pawn and then you win the next turn. Right? Maybe you didn't realize post-castle that the diagonal was still propagating. That's the only reason I can think of to take here. Maybe you thought, okay, here, bishop takes. And then, like, pawn here and then rook takes, and you didn't just want the free rook. Probably can take that pawn on d5. Do you mean on e5? He can, but he gives up a rook. Maybe he can take later. Okay, so maybe like rook f e1 here. And then you can threaten something though, can't you? You can, I don't know, you can like take here with the bishop. Queen takes e2, and how do I phase? Oh, here? What do you mean? Okay, so what you're saying is queen takes e2, and then you don't push this pawn immediately, right? So you do something for a turn, and he takes the pawn. Well, queen takes here. I don't know. Is it crazy to do something like... Is it crazy to do something like bishop takes? Because that forces bishop takes here, doesn't it? And then you get the queen? Because if bishop takes... Because if queen takes, bishop takes, pawn takes, moves, then... Oh, he can put the bishop on. Sorry. Then he can just put as soon as you push e5, he can just put his bishop on e5 and then it stops it. Yeah, there's flex tape. There's flex tape. Okay. It doesn't work. Anyway, this isn't what's played. So that's probably why not. Also, probably at this point there's some time pressure. So, and if that doesn't work, then you sort of lose, and so you do this instead. Which is still super spooky. I mean, these are like super forward push pawns. There is now actually an interesting move where, you know, now you like push this pawn, and then you like phase through the pawns here, or you open up the triagonal yourself or something along those lines. Or like you push here actually, and you just threaten mate. So like push here, and then queen takes hangs. So push here, and then rook here is mate immediately. Okay, there are ideas. Let's keep going. Okay. So e takes d4 happens here. Okay, rook e1 I think is absolutely mandatory. Because otherwise, rook e2 threatens mate in 1. Now you can take with the rook, so it's pretty good. Queen e3 isn't mate if that happens. So, okay, rook e1 happens. What do? You're trying to fuck shit up. You know, you're Andrey, you're Randy. Like, all right, Dreamer, fuck around and find out how I win from this position. What he plays is bishop b5, which makes a ton of sense. Now there's an added defender here. You know, so like e2, rook takes, queen takes is winning. Rook doesn't have anywhere to go. There's no pawn to push to block this. The bishop is the wrong color here. Queen c6 is no longer mate. And so rook here just loses the rook. So with check. And then you have to take with queen, and then there's some wacky stuff going on. So bishop b5 makes a ton of sense. Bishop b5 is the clear move here. Clear move here. Bishop b5, queen. Wow, queen c7. Bishop b5, queen c7. Bishop b5, queen c7. Wait, f2 might have been played. Rook f2 might have been played. Rook f2 was not played. If you want proof, here's the PGN. At no point is rook f2 played. So here there's the castle, and then there's e takes d4. There's rook e1, bishop b5 from c6, and then queen c7. Yeah, I say it was possible. Okay. You're saying it was possible. All right. Why? Takes here and you lose a rook, and it's with check, so you don't get a discoverino. But the queen is pinned. Okay, the queen's pinned. Okay. Queen's pinned. Rook f2 could have been played. Rook f2 could have been played. Honestly, rook e2 could also have been played, because now you prevent the push. Now you do this. Okay. Never mind. This is probably bad, because the bishop is defending d3. How is the queen pinned? Okay, so in this position, if rook f2 is played, you take the rook with check on the king, so then bishop takes, and now your queen is literally 2D pinned to your king. Because e1 is defended? Yeah. E1's defended. Okay, e1's defended. Yeah, okay. Looks tricksy. Let's move on ahead, because I'm losing steam here. We want to get to the end of this game, and actually we're close. Okay. Queen c7 was played. Queen c7 was played. What does it mean? What does it mean? What's being threatened? Black can't actually castle here to connect the rooks, which kind of opens him up to back rank possibilities, right? Because castles, there's an anti-castle travel onto g7 with that bishop, which is properly placed. It could just be you threaten to take... It could just be that you threaten to take the rook one turn in the past where the queen is defending it. That's probably the play, right? That's probably what's being threatened. Right? I thought the queen, though I can play d3, d2. Yeah. You can play d3, d2. I thought the queen might just move up to first rank. Like all the way? Question mark? First rank is back here. Oh, you thought the queen might just move back so that everything's like defending itself, and this is... Maybe. It is important to have a defender here, though. Because if the queen moves back to the first rank, then d3 is like threatens a really tricky mate. No, I meant before. Doesn't work because e1 was defended. I see. Okay. Yeah, here, I suppose you can sack the queen, force the king here, and then in 2 moves, bishop d1 is mate. But then he doesn't have a queen, so you can just go queen or king e7, and the rook covers. So that doesn't actually work. Doesn't actually work. What's the idea? Yeah, I guess you're threatening the travel. That must be it, right? You must be threatening the travel here. Like, okay, so queen c7 is played. So the idea is if anything happens, that you have a board here that you want to travel onto with a queen, which is pretty disastrous. So maybe that's the idea. In response, bam, bishop f1, check. What you gonna do? What you gonna do is a good question. You gotta take with the rook, right? I mean, it'd be crazy to take with the king. Well, this isn't mate. How do you force a mate through? Because bishop doesn't, am I crazy? Isn't on this board? Oh, he's in check on this board. But you can't provide another check. Well, I guess you could go here. Can't the queen travel, take the rook next time possible? I don't know if you meant what I just said. So I was saying that the idea is to go back to, you know, this board to take the rook where the queen is defending it. That's what I meant. You can't go to this board because it would check you. You know, white's in check. Take with the rook here is possible. Not on this board. Yeah, how do you prevent that? Are you gearing up for like a travel maybe? The question is, when will it be possible? Yeah, but what do you do after rook takes? Rook takes is obvious here, I think. Now here maybe this happens. The queen can't go here yet, and you're threatening mate in 1, right? Okay, and this is the move that's played on the board. So now probably bishop f2. This prevents these shenanigans. Yeah, you lose the rook, but then you lose the game in a moment. No. Pawn takes here, king takes. I guess you can threaten mate in 1 here. Threaten mate in 1? No, because queen defends d4. d4. What do you mean about d4? pawn takes, king takes back, queen d4. d4 is here. Do you mean c4? Because that's not possible because there's a queen here. Yes, I know. Okay. That's what I said? Okay, so Sonoy's reiterating my line. So takes here, and then king takes doesn't net you anything. Because he just travels. Right? What else can you do? Queen moves away, by the way, also allows immediate mate with queen e5. So I don't really see it. He can't travel. The promoted queen has check. I know he can't travel that turn, but he can still travel to a turn. No, okay, let's play it out. Let's play it out. Let's play it out. Let's see. We said bishop f2, but is that what's played? Yes, it is. Okay, now this check happens. Literal only legal move. Now d3 is played. So in a turn, you threaten mate in one with the d pawn. Yes, okay. D pawn push threatens mate in one. Okay. My lack of vision. Okay, d3 push here threatens queen e2 mate in one. Right. Okay. And Dreamer still can't travel. Nerve-wracking to leave this queen on c7 here, by the way. Especially, I'm sure there's time pressure here because we're coming up on the end of the game. This is quickly turning out to be a crazy game. In the end game here, everything is coming together. All of the crazy tactics. It is suddenly now an overwhelming end game, which is really interesting. Semet says king takes f1 doesn't net you anything. Also, Semet, king takes f1 literally only legal move. Those things are not in any way contrary to each other, right? I'm saying king takes f1 is like necessary, but as the black player, it doesn't enable you to get a mate. D2 push here or D3 push here is obviously threatening a mate. Oh, as black. Yeah. I was talking from black's perspective, trying to evaluate if it was a lethal line. Here, what do? King G1 only legal move? Right? I mean, because the bishop defends against the mate, there's no other back rank, and queen here will no longer... Okay, so D3 push happens. Here you have to run away, right? The king can't move anywhere else. Sacrificing a piece doesn't do anything. You don't have a travel onto this board because you're mated. The bishop doesn't do anything other than lose you the game. Well, hold on. What about bishop e3 here? What about bishop e3 here? Because you give yourself a board to mate on, right? Like if the queen captures here, then you win by traveling to this board. It's probably too crazy. Because there's probably a defense, right? No, because what if you push bishop here? Castles here doesn't defend you in time because the queen is going to go to this board, right? Yeah, the fact that d3 push happened here, it gave black, or it gave white a board on which they could sack. So if you play bishop e3 here, I don't see how, because anything that black does, if it takes, then travel to this, whatever happens actually, you can't prevent the travel. Even if you defend with this queen, I mean, I guess you could play bishop f3. You could play bishop f3, which enables you to travel after this travel happens to recapture with the queen. That seems possible, but that seems like a pretty good result to me because this king was pinned. And so after queen travel, this bishop is going to mate the king, no? But black will have the opportunity to travel to the back rank after white travels. That's a good point. That's a good point, Tones. That's a good point because if bishop e3, queen takes, queen travels, then queen travel to here would be how many turns in the past? So the queen's traveling there from this board. Okay, queen will travel here. Then something will happen and you'll queen travel again because you'll have timeline advantage onto the turn like before, like here. Wait, no, the queen defends. So you can't go back rank from here. You can't go back rank from here. You can't go back rank from here. Because if bishop, if bishop here, then the only way you can get to the back rank is where it's defended by the bishop or it's defended by the queen. So actually, that's crazy. Wow, this is a wild game. Okay, I'm suddenly super hyped about how crazy this endgame is. Oh my god, this is... What a tactical playground this game's been. This is a fantastic game. It was like a rough start, kind of similar to the rough start that in the earlier Andrey vs. Streamer game. But then it got into this super sharp tactical 5D endgame, and I'm actually really excited about this game. Okay. Wow. Okay, bishop e3 I think is good. I don't know. Maybe someone can catch YouTube comments, see if you have any ideas. But bishop e3 is a super cool move. Okay, it's not what was played. It's not what was played. Now, what was played? What was played? King G. Okay, King G1 is the other move that I saw. It's the other move. Because if you're not blocking the queen from getting there, you have to prevent your king from getting, mate in one with queen e2. So King G1 is what's actually played. Bishop e4 check at the beginning. Now bishop e3 cool moves. Yes, we found cool. Okay. I'm happy that this was a fruitful analysis. Okay, great. Yeah, earlier we had that bishop e4 line. Now we have the bishop e3 line. Okay, cool. Very cool. All right. Sorry, I'm excited. I'm excited that we found new ideas because that's what it's all about. This wasn't a waste of time. I mean, worst case scenario, I bring in an entertaining 5D. I bring an entertaining 5D game to the masses. So, okay, what the hell's going on here now? King G1 happens. What are you doing as black? D2 threatens D1 mate. It allows this travel to happen. It allows this travel to happen, so that's probably bad. So you probably want to travel, you probably want to bring your queen somewhere where you threaten a travel mate, right? So queen e2 is probably the move to allow a back rank to d1 where the queen doesn't defend. And that would be one turn in the past, but then you always have a check. Oh no, but then the travel is a check. Okay, so I think queen e2... Okay, Andrey says queen e2 is the only move in the position. I actually think... No, you're right. Okay, I was thinking queen f3 because then you can make a timeline to defend. The only problem is that on the after you travel queen f3 back like 3 turns or 4 turns, you can't set up a check, and the white player can always set up a check. So it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So queen e2 I think is right. Queen e2 is probably the play. On the board, we do get queen e2. We're in the last 3 moves of the game. Amazing. Now, why isn't this... Of course. Oh my god, that's so good. Dude, congratulations. You Tchaikovsky'd yourself. Oh my god, that's so good. Dude, that's so good. I don't know if I would have seen this, to be honest with you. In the game, under time pressure, wow. Wow, 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 wow. No, because I actually, if the travel's legal, it's still okay? Or it's probably not okay. Because this queen can't go... Well, the queen can go back to, like, quite a ways. Maybe... Oh. Okay, actually, if this travel was legal, black wins. Which is cool. So... Didn't matter. Black had a win here. Black threatens an immediate win by travel. So that's nice. That's fancy. Okay. Wow. So, okay. Oh my god. Queen d8 not possible. This is so cool. Okay. Queen d8 not possible. So what the hell do you do? What the fuck do you do? Let's pretend it wasn't here. Okay. As white? Okay, if you can't, you have to prevent mate in one. Right? Plain and simple. Only way I see to do that. Queen c1. Only way to defend d1 is queen c1. Let's pretend it wasn't here, the counter mate. Okay. Does that mean Andrey missed the counter mate? Still travel 2 back. It's true. But then there's a for mate, or am I missing something? You still have this travel. But now white gets to travel as well. It's possible that Andrey didn't see this. Okay, so let me see what was actually played. Okay, queen c1 was actually played. Queen c1 was actually played. Now, Andrey played d2. Which is clever, but it's not mate. Andrey, did you miss this, or is there a reason you didn't play this? This seems bad for white. You can always threaten a recapture as well, so it's not even... Oh no. Even if you get, you can check and threaten a recapture on e2. I tend to miss travel when I see wins without travels. What I played was almost mate. There's Jurassic Queen. Okay, there's a Jurassic. Probably that's what you have to do. But if it all comes down to a Jurassic, that's good for you, right? I mean, I get if you want to clean up the, if you want like a clean game, then you try to avoid having to travel. But like in this position, any sane man immediately, if he sees it, plays the forced soft mate, which probably enables you a mate anyway, because you can always, like in situations like this, 9 times out of 10, you can threaten some sort of travel back. And on that board after the travel, you have queen takes, which forces like king takes anyway. I'm not saying, evidently. Oh my god, it's just like the other game where like both players had opportunities that they missed. Okay. So D2 is played. My heart goes out to Andrey's everywhere, man. I don't remember if I saw that. Yeah, okay. This was probably time pressure as well. Look at this. Look at this position, man. It's not yet the fuck up. That's what I love to hear. Dude, this is just like the other game with Dreamer versus Andrey. Oh my god, this is just like the other game. Okay, this threatens win. On the spot. So what do you do? What are your legal moves? Okay, what Dreamer did was went to C1 one turn in the past. Honestly, I probably would have Jurassic'd. As Dreamer here, you can go from turn 27 to turn 5. which I think is good. So we actually, oh, he goes to turn 12. Whoa. Whoa, okay, we get a Jurassic. Turn 12. Turn 12. Oh my god. Okay, we get a 15 turn Jurassic. We get a 15 turn Jurassic. He literally has to travel just as with Softmate. That's true. The Softmate would also have forced him to travel, except Andrey would have one less timeline, one fewer timeline, like in the timeline priority. So this is probably better. This is probably better. Okay, this happens. Oh no. Andrey, tell me you don't blunder. Tell me you don't blunder, Andrey. Not like this, Andrey. No! No! Oh, God, it hurts. Oh, the 15 turn Jurassic into blunder. I know how this game ends. It's obvious. Oh. I can tell you, but that'd be a lie. No! How much time pressure was there? Sugarcoat it for me, Andrey. Were you on like 2 seconds? Did you just rattle this off ASAP? There's no way you just rattled it off with time, right? I think a lot. No. Andrey, you had Dreamer in the palm of your hands. Okay. We know who the true winner of this game is. I think the most updated version of the PGN recorder also records timestamps, so we need more than sugarcoating here. What an end. Dude, this is like a Greek tragedy, man. Like, you're like, there's no hope, and then there's like, but you're in a bad spot, and then our hero climbs back, and then right when he's got the mate, it's like, okay. And then we get to here. And what does our hero do? The very strong D takes C4. In response, Queen C8. But wait. Queen D8 here defends. Andrey, did you not realize that Queen D8 here defends? Because Queen C8 is the last move of the game. This doesn't defend. Takes. Boom. Yeah, Queen takes D8. Only legal move, King takes D8. Oh, Queen C7. There's a bishop. There's a bishop. There's a bishop. Okay, Queen C7 mate. Whew. Okay. Okay. It was that was like an extra layer, like a twist on top of the twist. It's like when, it's like when Romeo kills himself, or Juliet kills herself. It's been a while since I've had Shakespeare. I hope Poison doesn't watch this, but yeah, it's like when Romeo kills himself or whatever, and then Juliet, spoilers for like a 600-year-old play or whatever, and then Juliet wakes up and also kills herself. It's like the last, yeah, sorry, spoiler for Romeo and Juliet might be, but no, it is tragic here. Yeah, probably Andrey thought this defended, which I also thought defended. But this here, he just lost on time, which is fair. Yeah, because then it's forced. Queen takes, king takes, and then queen c7. Yeah. Okay, all good. Still though, I can't. Oh my god. Andrey's won. All he has to do is hang on in a position where he's already got a big advantage. I can't say that I wouldn't have made the same mistake here. I just feel like I also would have made the same mistake here. It's just like spiritually it calls to me. King exile safer. Like on principle, well, okay, it's not an exile, right? It's a king evacuation. But king evacuation here, honestly, probably much safer. Oh, after queen c8? No, because then queen takes h8 is like mate on this king, or on this king, you know. So not after knight c8, or not after queen c8. There be king on e8 that gets checked by the queen on the top timeline. Lawnmower, yeah, lawnmower's got the right idea. That's totally correct. No. Because you would exile the king to a future turn, so that's not possible, and you would kick the queen, right? So like if on this board, also c8 is doubly defended, so no. Like because if you exile the king, then the rook and the bishop look at c8, so no. So lawnmower isn't quite right. If you immediately king exile, then queen c8, bishop takes, queen c8, rook takes, and you're fine. So interesting position though. What a game, man. What a game. I think I thought about exile after the game. Yeah, I think king evacuation on this board is fine. You can literally castle here. Because white doesn't have timeline priority. But, you know, it's probably dangerous for other reasons, like you push here, or you push this knight here or something. But, you know, I think that probably you play knight c6. Then takes is kind of annoying, because then you can't recapture with the bishop. So maybe bishop c6, and then takes, I don't know. Knight c6 is nice because the back rank is opened up. Exiling is always the answer. Where the hell did you come from, Nurik? Comes out of the woodwork. I don't think it was surviving. I mean, I don't know. King evacuation here looks pretty safe. Just because c8's doubly defended, but we made it. What a fantastic game. These viewer submitted games have yet to disappoint. Absolutely legendary. Thank you so much to Andrey for submitting this game. We're one game further. Okay, we're down to only 4 games in the review queue, which is fantastic. Sonoy trying to bait me. I think there's one remaining sub that I haven't gifted for the words that I'm not allowed to say. No, I gifted 3 for the third word. I think I gifted 553. I think this is the first time that I haven't had to gift 5 for all of the gift subs. Or for all of the words that I've said. But simultaneously, you know what you should have said? Sonoy, you should have referenced something about the Fox unit that I messed up in CEO. That would have been much more natural. I think I would have fallen for that. You should have said, like, I'm still laughing at the whatever, you know, video, etc., etc. So, anyone here want to team with me for team tourney? Nurik, we've like already played all of the round 1 games, I think, for the team tourney. So, you might be wrong actually, or I might be wrong actually. Maybe we can still fit you in for like a round 1 game. You'll have to ask Crazy, but I think a lot of teams played their round 1 game. So it might be difficult to squeeze you in, but if you can, if you can find someone ASAP, then maybe Crazy can squeeze you in tomorrow. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah, but even queen takes h8. No, I'm not, Doug. I'm talking about on this board. On this board, you move the you evacuate the king. Not after this. Because here, king takes h8 or queen takes h8, I think loses. He already registered, but nice build. Okay, so he's got a spot, but he doesn't have a teammate. Okay, so you did squeeze him in. I see. But before, I can play just knight c6. Yeah. You could just play knight c6. I'm just saying. Yeah, I think once you play d takes c4, it's lost. I think it's lost. I don't think that you can evacuate because, yeah, queen h8. I think even checks this king in the past, like, soon. And if it doesn't there, then queen down here is a problem. So, what a crazy game. Fantastic game. Okay. GG's to Andrey and Dreamer. Thank you so much for bringing us this amazing game. We are now closer to 9 hours streamed than 8 hours, so I gotta get the hell out of here. I gotta find myself some food.